Hello again, everybody. Today's second review is going to be of oh my god, The Exorcist Believer, which I gave an 8 out of 10 to. Now, I saw that it got some pretty bad reviews, and I know a lot of people, with the nostalgia factor, really harshly compare it to the original film. Now, I know this had some obvious throwbacks to, like, Easter eggs to the original film as well, too. Um, so for sure, like bringing some of the cast members from the original film or the original couple films, I guess you could say, was like a nod, obviously, to them. Now, I wish they had have maybe used them a bit more in the movie. Uh, Unfortunately, yeah, it just seemed like they kind of cast them aside pretty quickly. That was maybe one of the downfalls. And then at the very end, the scene, I found some of the like the actual exorcism part a little cheesy, but I mean, that's kind of a given, I guess, with most of these movies. Sometimes there's a little bit of cheesiness mixed in with, the horror and the horror and the kind of like thriller element to this one, really. Yeah, it was an interesting mix, which is kind of hard to pull off, like having like the thriller elements and the horror elements mixed in there together. So yeah, I thought they did a very good job of that, and I don't really know why everybody was hating on the film so much. I feel like you kind of have to separate this one from the rest in a sense, even though they were kind of bringing back older characters, and trying to maybe connect those two stories a little bit. But also, it is like an original idea and an original movie in a sense as well. So yeah, I feel like after so many years, um, and not really having another film. Now, is it as good as the original? No, I wouldn't say that. So I did give this film an 8 out of 10 because I thought that's what I thought of it anyway. That's how much I enjoyed it. So yeah, I was just kind of shocked to see that it didn't get it wasn't received as well as I thought it was going to be. But anyway, I did. Now I was going to go see this in theaters, but I can't remember what it was competing against at the time because that was 3 years ago. But yeah, I just ended up missing it for whatever reason. Maybe I just wasn't able to make it, or it just was conflicting with other movies that I just wanted to see a little bit more. But it is what it is. I'm finally watching it now, and I'm glad I did. So we'll go over the cast list first, as always. So Leslie Odom Jr., who played Victor Fielding, Tracy Nicole Graves, who played Serene Fielding, Lydia Jewett, who played Angela Fielding, Danny McCarthy, who played Stuart, Anne Dowd, who played Anne. Kind of ironic that she didn't even bother to change her name in the movie, but it is what it is. Norbert Leo Butts, who played Tony. Olivia O'Neill, who played Catherine. Jennifer Nettles, who played Miranda. Raphael Sabarge, who played Pastor Don Revens. Now, Okiwi Akpun Asili, I want to say is how you pronounce her name, played Dr. Behibe. Ellen Bernstein, who played Chris McNeil. E.J. Bonilla, who played Father Maddox. Linda Blair, who played Regan McNeil. So again, the two from the original movie, uh, being Ellen Bernstein and Linda Blair, who played Regan and, oh my god, and Chris. So those were kind of the nostalgic two characters from the original film, right? So we actually start out in this story in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. So an earthquake hits, and Serene, who was the wife, is hurt, and Victor must decide whether to save the wife or the child. Of course, we don't see his decision, but we obviously get the implication that he has decided to save the child, obviously, based on the next location we end up at is Percy, Georgia. And him and his daughter seem to have a pretty good connection for the most part. Like, they seem pretty happy together. He seems a little bit overprotective of her, obviously, but I guess that's kind of, based on the circumstances of the past, right? And he kind of tries to, I guess, keep her somewhat sheltered, I suppose. So she doesn't really have many friends, but she seems to have one close friend, Catherine. Um, and eventually the two of them decide that they're going to go off into the woods to try to contact her mother, which if we know from anything, contacting the dead is probably never a good idea, especially when they, I guess, died of certain circumstances, I suppose. But it wasn't really like. Now, my thinking is that maybe Angela was kind of cursed before birth, and whatever ritual um, they had put on the mother to protect the baby, might have not been what she had thought. That's just kind of my thinking on it. And when she went to contact her mother when she grew up, that kind of maybe gave a rebirth to whatever had happened to her mother. That's kind of what I'm guessing. But Catherine and Angela seem to be pretty tight together, like almost connected in a sense. Is kind of the feeling you get, especially after they come back after 3 days, and Angela says like she only feels like she's been missing for a few hours, but it was actually a few days, which is more than shocking because it seems like she's completely lost track of time. So they check for everything, like standard procedure type stuff, and obviously some stuff that you probably wouldn't want to hear your child being checked for, but again, it's, I guess, kind of like a precautionary thing, right? Just in case they were kidnapped and, some other stuff might have went on. I'll let your imagination run wild with that if you haven't seen the movie. Um, but yeah, definitely still a good watch, I would say. So yeah, if you're not like super squeamish or bothered by that sort of stuff, now that does bother me because yeah, I don't think that type of thing should ever happen to a child. But again, I guess you could probably tell what I'm getting at from that. So they do go missing, but they are found. I think it was 30 kilometers away, or what was it, 30 kilometers or 30 miles away from where they originally had gone missing, or at least where their stuff was found, right? Again, yep. So, like I said, Angela says that she's only been missing for a few hours, but it turns out to be a few days. And then she admits to her father that she was trying to make contact with her mother. And, you're supposed to say whatever the spirit is speaking to you, I guess. So I'm not exactly sure what Angela's mother was trying to tell her, but as time goes on, it seems that Angela and Catherine slowly get more and more possessed, eventually to the point that Miranda actually says that she believes that just like Jesus did, um, before he came back 3 days later, he went to hell, and she believes that that's where the burn marks on their feet were from, was that the two girls went to hell, came back, and now they've been possessed. So kind of a crazy concept to think about, and definitely one that would probably be a last resort for most parents. But I guess because Catherine's parents are fairly religious, they obviously believe quite strongly about the kind of like stuff like demonic possession and so on and so forth. And I guess they were planning to baptize Catherine, but I guess I can't remember whatever religious following they were in. I believe the father says, Tony, that they don't baptize the children until they're older and they truly like believe in the Christianity or whatever. It was whatever religion they were following. I'm not exactly sure, or maybe just whatever church they were with specifically. So kind of interesting that they wouldn't baptize the child until they were much older, and maybe that would have gave Catherine the protection she needed against whatever was happening to her. So eventually it gets to the point where Anne, uh, Victor's next door neighbor, ends up giving him this book that was that was written by Chris McNeil, and so he tracks her down because she's not an exorcist like herself, but she obviously had issues with her own daughter Regan in the past, and ever since then, I guess Regan hasn't really had any contact with her, from what Chris has said when Victor finally does track her down and meet with her, but she does offer to come back with him and help with Angela and the other child. With Angela and Catherine, I guess I could say that. Yeah. So it seems that by the time uh, Chris even gets there, that Angela has already carved Regan's name into the bed, and I was like, okay, at this point, this is kind of like giving me chills. Every little scene, just to build up with like the thriller aspect to it. Um, like the thriller, I don't really know how to explain it. Like it had like its horror elements, but it was also like thriller elements too. So you would think there was something that was going to like jump scare you, but there was never any real like jump scares in this movie. It was all kind of like a slow burn build up, which I enjoy that. I enjoy that a little bit more than just, like the cheesy jump scares all the time, because that's kind of what I was expecting from this movie, but it definitely was not that at all. Like it kind of threw me for a loop when they were kind of adding like the thriller elements and making it like really making you feel what was happening in the scene, and that gave me chills throughout the movie. So yeah, um, kudos to them for that for sure. Especially the scenes with Angela, like the actress that was playing her really sold those parts well. So those scenes well. So yeah, kudos to her for that. Um, so what else was I gonna say? Uh, Even Catherine did a good job of being like super creepy, and especially the scene in the church where she comes back like soaked in the wine or whatever, and like just starts screaming at the pastor. Like that was pretty cool. So yeah, there were definitely some memorable scenes in this movie for sure, and of course, when Victor comes back and decides that he's going to go forward with, this exorcism, that he kind of brings in everybody. So he brings in the pastor, Stuart, obviously Catherine's parents, and unfortunately, the exorcism doesn't go quite the way they wanted to. I guess that when his wife had been injured, he had chosen to keep the wife alive instead of the kid. So I guess whatever was possessing uh, the two girls, Angela and Catherine, knew that and was playing on that as well. So they said that they had to choose one, and of course, Tony, Catherine's father, decides that he just says, "Catherine, I choose you to keep Angela alive," which is, that has to be heart wrenching for a parent, right? Now the priest does come in, and yeah, he tries. He tries his best, but unfortunately, it seems that the demon that is possessing him is even too strong for that, and they end up just breaking his neck like almost instantly when he enters the room. So that was kind of crazy. And also, unfortunately for Chris, she gets her eyes poked out by Catherine, and yeah, it's a whole bunch of unfortunate circumstances for her. But uh, yeah, I'm not sure how eventually like she felt some sort of connection with what was happening with the two girls. So that was kind of interesting to me. I wish they had touched on that maybe a little bit more. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff that happened in here that they could have, explained a little bit better near the end of the movie. And again, some of it was a little bit cheesy, but again, some of it gave me chills at the end too. So yeah, it was kind of like a very weird mix at the end of the movie for me, like as to how I felt. Like some of it was a little bit corny and cheesy, but also some parts I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like they're stronger, like the demon that is possessing them both is connected somehow, or has connected them together almost. And they're having to like, he has to use the scarf from the beginning of the movie that she complained about, that was her mother's, that was like a protection blanket for her in a sense, I guess, but he took it away from her. And then maybe if she had have had that on when she went to the woods, she might not have ended up getting possessed by this demon. There's so many things that are just like kind of like connected throughout this movie that are like make you question what could have happened, and you know why was he so hard on her, so on and so forth. But again, I guess because he wanted the mother to live and not her in the beginning of the movie, that we find out. Now, whether that was true or whether that was the demon playing tricks on him, I guess we'll never really know, because they said, everybody else was saying, like, ignore that sort of thing. Now, the unfortunate part is that Catherine unfortunately passes away, because I think maybe the father like her father misunderstood what choosing one of them meant, and he just kind of chose her thinking that that was going to keep her alive. But yeah, it was to choose which one ended up dying, and it looked like both of them were actually going to be, unfortunately, killed in the process. But Angela does make it out alive, and it seems that she is back to normal life now, but obviously she's going to have some serious uh, problems to work through because she lost her best friend. And the part at the very end, not gonna lie, made me cry a little bit because um, Chris and Regan finally reunite after all these years. Now, it wasn't a very long moment, but it was a powerful one for sure, because yeah, she had said that she had basically spent her whole life not knowing where her daughter was, and then all of a sudden her daughter shows up at the very end of the movie. So powerful moment there, and I think that was a very fitting ending for the film. And of course, the little speech at the end from Anne was pretty powerful too. But I will not go, like, I can't remember every single word she said, but it was a pretty powerful speech, for sure, to kind of close out the movie. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for this movie. I did really enjoy it, minus like the little bit of cheesiness at the end with the actual exorcism. But I mean, hey, that's kind of to be expected. I think with most of these movies, there is going to be some a little bit of cheesiness to it, and maybe some over dramatization. I think just for like Hollywood's sake, I suppose, to kind of like bulk up the film a little bit and yeah, add some shock value. But I don't really think this film needed it after, like the kind of like slow burn buildup that they had. They could have kind of had that same tone in the final scene. But that's just my thought. Anyway, I guess I guess that's it, and I will see you guys in the next review. Yeah, I said 8 out of 10 for this movie. I don't know how many times. So, yeah, I'll let you guys go. Bye bye for now.